In recent months, something unusual has been happening across the United States. Stories about UFOs, now officially called Unidentified Aerial Phenomena or UAPs, have begun appearing everywhere. News programs, podcasts, government hearings, and even former officials are suddenly talking about something that for decades was dismissed as conspiracy theory. For years, the idea that governments might be hiding information about extraterrestrial encounters sounded like science fiction. But now, that conversation has moved into the mainstream. Researchers, journalists, and even former intelligence officers are suggesting that we might be approaching a moment many people once believed would never come. Disclosure. Some believe 2026 could become the year when the truth finally surfaces. Others claim something even more shocking, that there may already be a specific date when everything will be revealed. But to understand why people are taking these claims seriously, we have to go back to a moment that quietly changed everything. In 2017, a story broke that stunned Washington. Major newspapers revealed the existence of a secret Pentagon initiative known as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The program had reportedly been operating quietly inside the Department of Defense for years. Its mission was not officially to study aliens. Instead, investigators were tasked with analyzing unexplained encounters reported by U.S. military pilots. These encounters involved objects moving at speeds and angles that seemed to defy known aeronautical physics. Pilots described craft with no visible engines, no wings, and flight capabilities far beyond anything publicly known. Initially, the Pentagon denied the program's existence. But as more documents surfaced and more witnesses came forward, that denial began to crumble. Because some of the incidents recorded by the program had no conventional explanation. Not drones, not experimental aircraft, not weather balloons. Just something unknown. And that uncertainty was about to force the U.S. government into a conversation it had avoided for decades. By 2022, the situation had escalated to a point where silence was no longer possible. Under growing pressure from lawmakers and the public, the Pentagon officially acknowledged the existence of programs dedicated to studying unidentified aerial phenomena. For the first time in more than 50 years, the United States Congress held formal hearings about UFO encounters. Military officials testified under oath. Videos recorded by Navy fighter pilots were played for lawmakers. In some of those recordings, unidentified objects can be seen accelerating instantly, hovering without propulsion, and disappearing at impossible speeds. Between 2023 and 2024 alone, over 700 UAP reports were logged by trained military personnel. Most cases eventually found explanations, but a small percentage remained unresolved. And those unresolved incidents were the ones that kept intelligence officials awake at night. Because if these craft weren't extraterrestrial, then someone on Earth possessed technology decades ahead of anything publicly known. At the end of 2025, the conversation took another unexpected turn. A documentary titled The Age of Disclosure began circulating online and at independent film festivals. The film had been produced in secrecy over 3 years by filmmaker Dan Farah, who had previously collaborated with major Hollywood figures. But what made the documentary different was not its production value. It was the people who appeared in it. More than 30 individuals with connections to intelligence agencies, defense programs, and government institutions gave interviews. Some of them spoke cautiously. Others made statements that sounded almost unbelievable. One former defense official claimed that certain encounters involved technology that clearly did not originate from any known nation. Another suggested the government had recovered materials that could not be explained by conventional science. The documentary didn't provide definitive proof, but it did something equally powerful. It made millions of people start asking questions. Among the most controversial figures featured in the documentary was a former Pentagon official who had worked directly on investigations involving unidentified aerial phenomena. During his interview, he made a statement that quickly spread across the internet. He claimed that during classified investigations, he had personally witnessed evidence suggesting the existence of craft that were not built by human technology. His words were careful but unmistakable. "I saw objects and materials that we simply could not explain." Another key figure appearing in the film was a former intelligence officer who had helped lead the government's internal research program. He described the system so secretive that even high-ranking officials were sometimes kept in the dark. According to him, the decision to speak publicly came down to a moral dilemma: remain silent, or tell the public what he believed they deserved to know. Then something happened that few people expected. During a podcast interview in early 2026, former President Barack Obama was asked a question that has followed American presidents for decades. "Are extraterrestrials real?" His response surprised many listeners. Obama said he personally had never seen extraterrestrials and had never been shown definitive evidence while serving as president. But he also added something that fueled speculation. He admitted that there were objects observed in the skies that could not be easily explained. Within hours, clips of the interview spread across social media platforms. Some viewers believed Obama had indirectly confirmed the existence of something extraordinary. Others believed he was simply repeating what intelligence officials had already acknowledged. Soon after the interview gained traction, Obama clarified his comments online. But by that point, the discussion had already exploded across the internet, and the political response was just beginning. Not long after the interview went viral, another familiar political figure entered the conversation: Donald Trump. The former president responded to the controversy, suggesting that certain information about unidentified aerial phenomena might indeed exist within classified government archives. Trump had previously hinted during his presidency that he had been briefed on unusual aerial incidents, but he had never publicly claimed that extraterrestrial technology existed. Still, his response reignited curiosity. In a statement posted online, Trump said that if elected again, he would support the release of government records related to UFO investigations. For many researchers and UFO enthusiasts, that promise sounded like the beginning of something historic. For skeptics, it sounded like politics. Either way, the conversation was no longer confined to scientists and conspiracy forums. It had reached the center of American political discourse, and the story was only getting bigger